Well, good morning. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, good morning to everybody. I'll just wait till we get our second inductee in her spot. Good morning. I am Liz Fromgen. I am so proud to be the 20th president of Southwestern College. And we are so excited to be with you today to honor two very talented and dedicated mound builders who've demonstrated their craft through determination and talent. And I'm probably going to cry, just so you know. You can cry too. These two inductees we honor today demonstrate incredible care for the arts and for their college. They dedicated themselves to creating and appreciate beauty and to teaching, performing, supporting, and advocating for their art. They've been incredibly helpful to us as a college as we've confronted the challenge of change. Indeed, even as they grieved what was, they have been supportive and open to imagining what is possible for us. They have served on search committees and have directed performances. They have played roles and instruments. They have cleaned and organized spaces, supporting our current students and fellow alumni in numerous ways. They have simply gone above and beyond for their college. Today, we are proud to recognize their collective contributions to Southwestern College over these many decades. I would add, on a personal note, that I have been so grateful for their grace and generosity, for their willingness to dig in for their college. We must continue to demand more support for the arts. We must continue to highlight the importance of expression and appreciation of creation and the vulnerability and discovery that comes with making art. Robbie and Roxy each continue to have their expectation of their college. They do live here after all, and they're on campus a lot. And I've been grateful for their candid questions and their continued presence. Their honesty is coupled with support, and it is exactly what we need in this moment. Southwestern has a proud tradition of graduates and faculty who have truly created the ability for creation to share with the world. Robbie and Roxy are both great examples. They are true builders in all of the ways. It is particularly important that we celebrate the tradition of arts at Southwestern College and, at the same time, look ahead for what we can do together, always together. Today's inductees exemplify what can result when talent, dedication, and care are applied, when you lead with a creative heart and openness. Again, my sincere gratitude for all of you to be here today. I offer my congratulations to these two friends of mine and our inductees and their families for their support and for your support and love that you bring to the Builder family. Thank you. At this time, it is absolutely my pleasure to invite Terry McGonigal, class of 73, up to the podium as a Master of Ceremonies. Terry, they're all yours.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to be here today as we recognize exemplary graduates who have served Southwestern College well in many capacities. Collectively, these two women have dedicated over 110 years to creating and teaching the arts in Winfield, Kansas. It's true. Plaques for today's inductees have been added to the Physical Hall of Fame at the entry in Dartmouth Hall. They are up, so after the ceremony, if you'd like to go see them, the building is open and they're available to view. They will join an incredible group of individuals, a great and talented cast of characters, each and every one of them. This hall was underwritten by the Jenkins Endowment, funded by Mr. Charles Kopke, Southwestern College class of 1944. This recognition is to honor 20 plus years of fundraising service to Southwestern College by Mr. Ronnie Jenkins. The Southwestern College Fine Arts Hall of Fame was established in 2009 to lift up alumni and friends who have made significant achievements in the arts. With this hall, we give recognition and honor to those whose creative abilities and dedication has allowed them to bring unparalleled beauty, grace, and entertainment to the world. For that, we recognize these worthy individuals for their efforts. On behalf of Southwestern College, it is my honor and privilege to induct Robbie Banks and Roxy Callison today. I would like to call your attention to the fantastic glass pieces on the table beside me. These handmade awards are given annually to Fine Arts Hall of Fame inductees. They are handcrafted by Mr. Scott Hartley, who fittingly is not only a graduate of Southwestern, but also a member of this Hall of Fame. Scott has created each unique award for our Hall of Fame inductees for many years now. As a Southwestern science major, Scott went on to use his scientific mind and his creative eye to become a master glass blower. We are fortunate to be able to give these unique gifts to our inductees to permanently remind them of their honored place in our community. Our first inductee this morning is Robbie Gilger Banks, class of 1972. I first met Robbie in the fall of 1969 when I came here as a freshman. We sang an a cappella choir together and participated in the SC theater program. Over the years that followed, I saw a number of different sides to this tall, blonde woman from Garden City, Kansas. She was incredibly talented. She was a leader. She was an organizer and one who would step up and take charge when it was necessary. But she was a mentor and a teacher and much, much more. But although she was and is all those things, she was always genuine and a friend who possesses a quiet grace that endears her to everyone she meets. While at SC, she was involved in both the music and theater programs, besides being in the SC Symphony Orchestra, and was an active member and held leadership offices in both a cappella choir and campus players. Robbie participated in every theatrical production staged at SC during her 4 years here and was a member of the 1972 USO troupe that toured in the South Pacific. One of her favorite memories of the trip includes a very rowdy group of soldiers sitting in the front row of a theater in Korea. Tired of being heckled by their comments and strongly encouraged by a fellow cast member who will remain anonymous, Robbie poured a couple of large mugs of beer over them during the belly up to the bar number. Needless to say, it got their attention, and they even came up afterwards and apologized for their behavior. 6 weeks after returning from our 9-week tour, Robbie married Jim Banks, the love of her life, and took a job teaching in Dexter. During her 4th year there, after they bought Cunningham Music Company, Robbie developed a mantra that would guide and serve her throughout the decades that followed. Because it was to be her last year teaching in Dexter, she decided to stop worrying about the evaluations, the classroom visits, the standardized testing, the staff development, and parent conferences, and just enjoy teaching. In the years that follow, she chose to teach every year like it was the last. Robbie and Jim had the music store for 25 years where she continued to give private lessons. She was approached and asked to serve as the assistant orchestra teacher at Winfield schools, where she would work with 5th through 12th grade students. It became the favorite job of her career, where she stayed for 20 years. Besides being an excellent teacher guiding students through the rigors of learning an instrument, she delighted in surprising her students with the antics that displayed her human side as well, like the time she dressed up as Lady Gaga. Robbie has always had a willingness to serve her alma mater wherever and whenever there is a need. Over the years, often without fanfare and on short notice, Robbie has stepped up to help the SC music department, where she accompanied the a cappella choir, student voice recitals, or aided students with wise vocal advice. As a project person, she creates lists of things to contribute that are purposeful. She has been a consummate project manager. Looking back on our USO tour, Robbie earned the nickname of Sarge because she always had a plan. More recently, she took on the task of reorganizing both the choir and orchestra music libraries at SC and says the band library is on the horizon. In 2019, Robbie was instrumental in the celebration of the 130th anniversary for the Winfield High School Orchestra Program, which is the oldest orchestra program in the United States. Robbie is interested in people, although she does not see herself as a social butterfly. She appreciates everyone for what they do, especially the background folks, like custodians, cooks, and secretaries. She consistently mentors and provides opportunities for others, helping them make connections. Her greatest joy comes from the sharing of her love of music and seeing the impact that sharing has had on literally thousands of people in Winfield, in Kansas, and across the country over the past 50+ years. Although technically she is retired, she remains a devoted teacher. She still teaches piano, violin, and cello privately and challenges herself to bring the best out of every student. Always honest, but loving. In her critiques, her student roster is perpetually full. Robbie is forever on call to fill in when needed. She continues to play in the South Kansas Symphony and is an active member of the Winfield Gardeners, where she has worked diligently in fundraising efforts to replace the trees that were lost in the storm last August. She is a devoted alum of Southwestern College and a continued successful presence in Winfield. Always willing to step up, Robbie thrives on giving back to the community she has called home for the past 5 decades. In her spare time, she loves to cook and quilt. She demonstrated her culinary arts while at SC when she helped organize a campus player banquet that featured a peanut butter buffet. Recently, she completed memory quilts for her sons, Jay and David, using neckties from the men in her life, including her father-in-law, JJ, and her husband, Jim. With all that said, her favorite activity is spending time with her grandkids, Evie, Laurel, Jack, and Elliot, passing down stories and memories of their family's history. It is with great pleasure that I invite Robbie Gilger Banks forward to formally induct her as a member of the Southwestern College Fine Arts Hall of Fame.
I really don't walk on water. Ish, would you come up, please? Ish Fareed was my assistant when I took over the program, and he and I were the mom and pop of orchestra. And we never wanted to have things be too staid, so when it came time to make the safety announcement, Ish would always help. So here's our safety announcement for today. Ladies and gentlemen, please be aware that you need to turn your phones off.
Hello? No, I'm at SC. What do you mean what I'm doing at SC? Roxy and Robbie are being indicted. I mean inducted. Yes, I have to turn my phone off now. Love you, bye.
The emergency exits, will you please point them out? This is a la the airways. And if you have a crying child, please remove them immediately. Thank you, Ish.
Thank you.
This will be a kind of a random kaleidoscope of history and events that have shaped and influenced my life. It's all about connections and name dropping and small Kansas towns and Winfield and, of course, Southwestern College. Southwestern College has shaped my life for generations. My grandparents attended here, both singing in the a cappella choir. My grandfather was a Methodist minister, and his name was Arthur Briggs Duncan, and my grandmother was Lottie Maybell Erie. Thank goodness my parents didn't name me after her. Or Florisi or Pearl Anna, who were also cousins in the family. We had a penchant for interesting names. That's a Norman, isn't it? Everything was always interesting. My grandparents served small Methodist churches in south central Kansas. This was a time when no God-fearing Methodists drank, swore, danced, played cards, and the women certainly didn't wear pants. My mother remembers when her dad decided that they couldn't go to the post office on Sundays because that meant someone had to work on the Sabbath. So she wasn't happy at all having to wait till Monday to read the funnies in the paper. Church and music were all important in the Duncan household. The oldest child, my uncle Ralph, graduated with a music degree from that other Methodist college, Kansas Wesleyan. He then taught band and orchestra while his wife Virginia taught elementary music for several years. Then they moved to Boise, Idaho, where he opened a music store and taught lessons until retirement. There's kind of a weird thing about my grandmother and Uncle Ralph. She hung his Army portrait, for some reason, in the bathroom. And I can't tell you how weird it is to walk into the bathroom and see your Uncle Ralph. The middle child, my Uncle Earl, continued the family tradition, attending SC, singing in the a cappella choir, playing violin in the orchestra, and graduating with a music education degree. He taught in Fowler. And here's a name connection for you. He taught in Fowler, and his youngest daughter married a Fowler. When World War II broke out, he learned that as a conscientious objector, he could enlist in the Army as a musician and never have to carry a gun. He rose through the ranks and became the band leader for General Eisenhower, playing at venues all over Western Europe, including at the signing of the peace treaty at Versailles. After the war, he came back to Winfield as the conductor of the high school band and orchestra. His wife, my Aunt Lorraine, was not only a wonderful flute player, but also a gifted singer who sang the contralto solo in Elijah for numerous occasions. The last child was my mother, Margaret. She attended Southwestern studying piano and organ and was a student conductor of the a cappella choir and graduated with a music education degree. Her first job was teaching band in Ensign, which is just south of Dodge City, and it was there that she met my dad, an elementary teacher up the road in Montezuma. I was born in Pratt, and we then moved to Ulysses, or as my little sister called it, Mylissus. She and I were PKs, principal kids. Let me tell you, that's even harder than a preacher's kid, because we had to really behave not just on Sunday, but also 5 days of school. When Dad went to work for school specialty supply, we moved to Garden City, and that's where I graduated, playing in the band, singing in and accompanying the choir, debating, and playing volleyball at MYF. And that was the sum of my volleyball experience. And for some reason, when I went to Dexter, the school thought that I should coach volleyball. Thank goodness for senior leadership on the team, because I didn't have a clue. What exercises did you do last year? Show me. I like that one. Let's keep that. They ran it. After 2 years, I said, I need to resign because they deserve somebody who knows what they're doing. My 2 granddaughters who play volleyball and basketball cringe at the idea of thinking that I was ever a coach. I had a very interesting experience while teaching in Dexter. I took the band to KU Band Day, and we were led off at the lineup spot for the parade downtown, and I was dressed in my red double knit. Words go away sometimes. Double knit outfit because we were the Cardinals. And as we got off the bus and the bus drove off, the heavens opened and it poured rain. There was no going back, so we did the parade, and I was marching in the gutter in water this deep. I was soaked to the bone, and when we got on the bus, I was freezing cold. The kids all had clothes to change into, so I'm sitting on the bus shivering, and here comes Cheryl Lindley, who graduated from Southwestern, and said, "Mrs. Banks, come with us. We know how to get your clothes dry." So I followed her, and they took me into some building, I have no idea where it was, took me into this large bathroom, said, "Go in that stall and give us your clothes." Yeah. Was I ever naive? And then they left. Not one of them stayed behind. And I thought, how am I going to get out of here? Is there any way that... Pretty soon, here they came, gave me back my clothes, bone dry, and I had a great rest of the day. So sometimes it pays to trust people. My first memory of Southwestern is being here to be the train bearer for the Queen of the May, who was Sylvia Montiger. My grandmother, Gilger, had been her babysitter in Montezuma. It was such an experience to get to be at the dance, and I didn't want to sit down because then my purple dotted Swiss dress might get a wrinkle, and watch them wind the maypole, which the PE kids did, the PE ladies did. So that was a wonderful experience. I always came to band camp here at Southwestern. One year, I played clarinet under retired Marine band Colonel Stanelman. One year he handed out this handwritten piece titled Overture to Candide and casually said, "Oh, my friend Lenny wrote this. I asked him to make an arrangement for the band." It wasn't until years later that I figured out that he meant Leonard Bernstein. I came to Southwestern to carry on the family tradition of music teaching. What a wonderful experience it was. I'm probably the only piano student who had 5 teachers in 4 years. My idol, Marie Burdett, retired after my freshman year. I had no idea she was going to do that. How dare she? But she is my idol because she taught lessons until she was 101. So to you students out there who have come to help me out, I expect you to keep bringing me students with your children, and I am on my 2nd generation now. I think I'll live to my 3rd. My sophomore year, my teacher taught me to love Brahms. My junior year, the piano teacher was young and experienced, and I was unhappy studying with him. So dear Dr. Wendell, our beloved theory teacher, took me on 2nd semester and taught me how to really practice and love contemporary music. Then he moved on, and I had one last teacher my senior year. Having so many teachers really stretched me. Ross Williams taught string methods to freshmen and put me in the orchestra 2nd semester. He's the one who taught me how to start beginners. His son Larry used to come from Kansas City to work with the orchestra and mentor me. Warren Woolridge, what a wonderful voice teacher and a cappella director. We had choir tours, mostly to Western Kansas. But one year we went where it was really cold. And Vicki Sims and I were in a room that had no heat. There was a hole in the floor, and the heat was to come up from the kitchen. We were freezing, and lo and behold, we got to stay there 2 nights. One of my massage therapists is Warren's granddaughter. So you never know what connections are going to be made. Ken Krause, my other massage therapist, sang in the a cappella choir, and we often talk about those days when we were under Warren and the things he did and our love of Southwestern. Marvin Estes was an SC grad, and he's the one who called me in and said, "We're adding a position, and we'd like for you to be the assistant orchestra director." He coaches one of my students who is here today in the javelin. J.K. Campbell was at my Teacher of the Year honor, and he should be the Administrator of the Year because I have no idea how many thousands of things he did to help make that 130-year celebration grow to fruition, and I'm grateful to that. He was also one of my kids' teacher, so he's that old. Another mentor for me was Louise Schuppner. The first year that I taught under her for several years, and to this day, when I would get up in front of the orchestra, I would think, what would Louise do? Norman Callison fostered a love of theater. I was in all the plays, we were in USO together, we were in Horse Feathers together. I adored that man. And Ish, who you've already heard from, was my favorite assistant. And next year he will be the conductor of the Winfield program. Like many students, I met my life partner here, almost 52 years now. Jim has sat through countless rehearsals and who knows how many lessons, and I'm so grateful for his support, cheerleading, wise advice, and wicked humor. We have 2 sons, Jay and David, and I have a couple of little stories about them. As a young, new piano teacher in town, I didn't always get the most talented students. And I had students who could blithely never play an F sharp or a B flat, ignore the key signature for the whole song. And I was constantly saying, F sharp, B flat, F sharp, B flat. And Jay comes careening through the living room one day and this kid plays a note and he goes, B sharp. And he was right, the kid had missed the key signature. It was always a pleasure to play for my son David when he went to do solo work on his bass. He was never nervous. He'd go, oh, Mom, what's the big deal? You know, he'd just go up there, David, do you think we should tune? Oh, maybe. He is also the one who came into the kitchen one day when I was pushing something down into the garbage disposal. It was kind of nasty, and he goes, how do mothers do that? It was a joy to be in a trio, a clarinet trio with my father-in-law, JJ, and Jay at church one Sunday, and that's a dear memory I have. Those boys turned out wonderfully in spite of us. They have chosen wonderful life partners, and remember, it's still no returns. They are great parents to the best grandkids, and this day we're going to be celebrating Easter, a little late, and 3 April birthdays. So we're cramming a lot in today. It was an interesting time to be a business person when Jim and I had Cunningham Music. You never knew about people. There was one lady who walked in, opened the door and said, has my son been in here today? He's about this tall and he plays the saxophone. We had no idea who she was or who he was. So we just said no. And I turned to our clerk and said, man, it takes all kinds. And she says, no, it doesn't take all kinds. We just got all kinds. Part of my job was to go on the road and pick up instruments for repair and deliver instruments for repair. And I was always working with what Jim and I call baby band directors. Brand new teachers who didn't have a clue, thought they knew what to do. We were there to help them, prop them up, help them go on and make a career. And most of them stayed with it, and that was very rewarding to be able to do that. I've had a lot of teaching experiences. Not everybody's got to teach piano to their banker or hammered dulcimer to their family doctor. And I can teach anywhere. In this district, I taught in the basement. I taught in the gym, I taught in the hallway, I taught in one of the principal's offices, the kitchen in one place. So my motto is, have space, we'll teach. I even managed to continue lessons during the pandemic on Zoom, and one little girl and I were visiting at the beginning of her lesson, and she was 7 at the time, and I was 70. And we'd had really, really cold weather, and the snow had come. And I said, did you go out and play in the snow? And she goes, no, it was just too cold. And I said, oh, I know. This is the coldest it's ever been in my lifetime. And she said, mine too. That's why I want to continue teaching, to have that freshness come in and bring you joy in life. I had a boy who was very talented, but every time he turned the page and had to learn a new song, he'd go, oh, it's too hard. And he would lay back on the bench dramatically. I've always taught with this motto, give kids a chance. The deaf boy who said he wanted to play drums, one of the best drummers I ever had. The horrible tenor sax player that my family, I played for her the night before contest for the first time. And I've always prided myself that I could pick out where anybody was. If they skipped and went someplace, I didn't know where they were. After her first 3 notes, I had no clue where she was for the whole piece. So when she quit playing, I guess we're done. We tried it again, same thing happened. We went to contest, we managed to get through it. I mean, I ended when she did. That was a success. And she later came to me and said, I want to take piano lessons. And I thought, oh dear. Okay, I have an opening. That girl came and practiced. She practiced with a metronome. She's the only student I've ever had who would come to her lesson, sit down, turn on the metronome before the lesson began. She turned out to be a wonderful musician. Give kids a chance. I had a kid who stuttered and wanted to be one of the announcers at one of our concerts. So I gave him a part, just about 2 sentences. And with the encouragement of his fellow students, he got through that, and he was hooked on orchestra from then on. He would come early and help set up, stay late, put away, and he just had a wonderful experience. As a young teacher, or as a young college student, you say, if I know that I've helped one student along the way, I will consider myself a success. And I have had several who have done that. I had a boy who stayed in school, didn't graduate from high school, but he wanted to play an orchestra, so he continued to come to school. I had a girl who had lots and lots of problems at home and said, I'm not a good player, but being in orchestra means all the world to me, and when I graduate, I won't have an instrument because she used a school instrument, and that makes me really sad. And her classmates got together and figured out a way to get her an instrument. Those are the kind of kids I got to work with. And there are not many teachers who get to watch a child from 5th grade until the time they graduate from high school. You see them go through all the squirrely things, and you go, oh yeah, you're a 7th grader now. And everybody would say, oh, aren't you glad that you're going to have all these great seniors? And I go, yeah, but seniors are a whole different kind of thing. They don't want anything to change. No, don't give them anything new. But they were wonderful in spite of that. I got to see, and I had some wonderful, wonderful students. I had a class called Independent Study and Teaching Strings, where students were invited to come in and be a part of the program and help with other kids playing. Not all of those students, in fact, very few of those students went on to become string teachers, but they all became teachers. Many of them did. So that was a great thing to have happen. I loved, those of you who know me know I'm a competitor, so I always loved contest time. And we'd get everything prepared, and this was the time when we could strive for excellency and have it be recognized. I'm thankful for my friends, family, mentors, and students who have supported me and made it possible for me to have the best life teaching music to the most wonderful people in the world. Thank you.
Our second inductee is Roxy Callison, who earned degrees in 1969 and 1991. As I begin, I would like to read a few words that were written about Roxy a number of years ago. Before his death, Roxy's husband, Norman, began working on nominating Roxy for the Hall of Fame award. In his notes, he wrote, Roxy Callison is a living embodiment of the fine arts. On a daily basis, she draws on her training and endows those around her with her skills in music, theater, and art. Her truest gift lies in her ability to support and forward all the arts for other people. Mrs. Callison has organized and performed in countless programs for area organizations. She has tirelessly accompanied countless voice students at contests and competitions. Numerous weddings and funerals have also benefited from her ability as an accomplished singer, accompanist, and actress. Well, for those of you who knew Norman, you may recall he was not the type to freely hand out compliments. His practice, or lack thereof, included his family and friends. He always felt, if you're good at something, you know it and feel it, you don't have to be told. With Norman, to get a compliment like, that was adequate, was the ultimate accolade. So to read these words that he has spoken about Roxy truly says it all. His love for this strong, talented, and charismatic artist speaks volumes about how Roxy Callison inspires, nurtures, and personifies the true spirit of the arts and arts education. The respect she has gained for her creative and unending work in the arts resounds throughout Winfield and, yes, literally around the world. For nearly 60 years, Roxy has lived and served the Winfield community. She has trained over 200 voice students ranging in age from 4 to 87. She has coached acting students and inspired artists with her quilting and painting skills. She has fed us not only a diet of music, theater, and art, but with her homemade breads and cakes, and has provided young artists with a role model to demonstrate to them the excitement and joy that comes from a life in the arts. She is a working artist. She has performed, directed, and taught at numerous public schools, college campuses, and various community, regional, and professional theater venues around the country, winning the praise of students, co-workers, and administrators alike. Her relentless support of the college music and theater program spans nearly 6 decades and is second only to the tireless and often thankless work she did in creating the script and organizing a massive project for the 100th anniversary celebration of Campus Players, bringing generation after generation of theater students and theater goers together in 2019. Michael Wilder, former chair of the Division of Performing Arts here at Southwestern, said, "Roxy offers a healthy balance of energy and musical expertise. Her students reflect her excitement for the arts. Sincerity, honesty, and conscientiousness are all terms that apply to Roxy's teaching and performance." Reading the list of her accomplishments would take far more time than we have today. However, Roxy has held a number of interesting jobs throughout her career that bear mentioning. Some of the more unique ones include, she was the picture lady for USD 465, where she toured schools to bring famous works of art to life using her own fine art skills. She was the founder and producer of Roxy's Follies, a fundraiser event for Grace Church combining performance and culinary arts. She performed as Mrs. Claus in North Pole, Colorado's amusement park, and served as the green room nanny for the Jerry Springer Show in Chicago. Probably the most intriguing of all was her job as a poop collector for dung beetle research in South Africa. The most demanding yet rewarding job Roxy ever held was as Norman's wife and the mother of their 3 girls, Amanda, Jessie, and Aggie Lou. For many years, Roxy worked and supported Norman as he built a remarkable theater program here at SC. Oftentimes, she may have felt lost in the shadow of the work he was doing. But for those of us studying here, we always knew and respected the fact that she was there. On several occasions, Roxy expressed to her girls that she owed them an apology because in the wake of their crazy life with shows, concerts, choirs, lessons, and even horse feathers and applesauce, she had not given them a perfect childhood. In a note to her mother, Amanda wrote, "I love my life. I am a boringly content person. Would I be happy if the past were different? I don't know, maybe. I do know that the only point to dwelling in the past is to learn from it. I like to think I have." She goes on to say, "The joy I find in nature comes from childhood experiences with you. You always encouraged us to see birds, plants, moon, and stars. So, you grow the plants so they will live. I'll enjoy them as my mom taught me to." This is the essence of Roxy's teaching on every level. When Roxy was notified she would be receiving this award, she struggled with the idea that she did not deserve it. She felt there were others who were more deserving or had more interesting backgrounds or whatever other excuse popped into her head at the moment. I assure her that many of us felt this award was long overdue. Obviously, because he started this process over 15 years ago, Norman thought so too. On the wall of Norman's office, there was a plaque that read, "God's watching, give him a good show." I believe Roxy has done just that. On behalf of Southwestern College and the throng of artists that have been touched by her gifts of music, theater, and love, it is my honor to present the Fine Arts Hall of Fame Induction Award to Roxy Callison.
Okay, now you get to talk. They're all yours.
I have begun this speech at 4 o'clock in the morning all week long. Every time it was different. It's going to be different again. I thought about starting with that old joke where you have all these cards hooked together, but it looks like one card until you pick it up and say, well, this is my speech. And then I thought about bringing well, actually, it's a 3-ring binder that I've got at home, fill it with empty paper, and lay that very visibly down on the podium. And then I thought, nah, I'll just grab the well, I won't grab this one, but I thought I'll just grab this microphone and bring it out here and say, there is nothing scarier than a person with a microphone and no notes. But instead, I brought a book I wanted to show you. It's called The Birthday Book. Many of you have seen this book already because your names are in here under your birthdays. It's a beautiful book because it has all these great pictures of flowers in it. And if you don't know by now, I love flowers. There will be more of you in this book before the day is over, I hope. I've been carrying this around for a couple of years, and I thought today that it's symbolic in several ways. It's symbolic of how I grew up and what I kind of want to say today, but it's also symbolic of reflecting on your life. The reason I have this book is so that, let me stop and back up just a tiny bit. Norman Callison, whom you've heard about already, and not a lie was told in that. He came from a long line on both sides of his family of people who got cognitive decline, not design. Well, maybe design, I don't know. But anyway, cognitive decline of one kind or another fairly early on. And he just assumed that he would too. And bless his heart, he got us the absolute best long-term care insurance plan on the planet. And he didn't get to use it. Oh dear. Well, maybe I won't either. I don't know. Anyway, he would, just for fun, sit in the kitchen at 302 College in the rocking chair. He'd put on these kind of funky looking work outside gloves on his hands and put them like this, like he always saw his Uncle Willie doing. Oh, before he did that, he would take a bandana and tie a knot in each corner and put it on his head. Then he'd sit in a chair and he'd rock. And the kids would come home from school and they'd come in the door and they'd say, "Dad, what are you doing?" "I'm practicing." Well, I decided a couple of years back that I needed something that, just in case I needed to take that position in the rocking chair, I wanted to have something to remember people. I wanted a book where I could see the names and say, oh, to myself, I remember that person. Yes, I know who that is. And remember their stories and how they added to my life. Which is why I'd like to have all of you who know me and give I won't say that. They're children places. To be sure to sign this book. Just grab it from me. And you put your name and the year you were born under your birth date in the book. The other symbol of this book, even though it is not a storybook, is that in books we have stories. In plays we have stories. Every single person in this room, no matter your age, has a fascinating story of your life. We just heard a fascinating story of a life. Much of that story I knew, especially the Sarge part. I heard a lot about that from Norman, and he was grateful, my dear, grateful. It was not easy for a 31-year-old to take 14 college hormonal kids for 9 weeks on a Pacific USO tour performing with $10,000, which was a lot of money in 1972, in an attaché case that he had to take care of. And his wife back home, by the way, was, 7 months pregnant when they left, 9 months pregnant when they got home. Yeah, with that right down there. All of you have a story, and many of you are part of my story. I learned about stories in a couple of different ways when I was young. One was when I was read to And one of the stories I remember was Mrs. Ticklefeather. Do any of you know Mrs. Ticklefeather, the story? That one, yeah. And her saying, especially at the end of the book, is, "Oh, what a lucky, lucky lady I am." Another way of stories that I picked up when I was young was oral storytelling. My dad was a storyteller, and because of his shenanigans, everybody around him was also a storyteller. I came from a family of storytellers. I got to Southwestern College and got involved in theater. I was involved a little bit before that, but met Norman Callison. I was a freshman. He was a new teacher here. And lo and behold, there was another storyteller. And I just need to say, for those of you who didn't know him, he was a master storyteller. My children learned way too much from him because they too are master storytellers, and one of them that's here today in particular married a master storyteller. So that's typical of the family. One of the reasons I enjoyed the theater world with all those stories was that way I could be different people. I didn't have to be Roxy all the time. I could be other people. And besides that, I didn't even think about telling this till just now, so I'll tell it. One day we went to Newton, Kansas when I was a kid, and you are so bored out of your mind, aren't you? I'll try not to be too much longer, okay? Most people don't get this opportunity, and I'll bet you anything I'm going to forget what I wanted to say by the time I take this sidetrack, but I'm going to take it. Most people don't get the opportunity to say things tell about their lives, like Mrs. Banks, well, we were calling her Robbie, weren't we? Did a while ago. They have to wait until they're dead and other people tell their stories. I don't have to do that. Isn't that nice? So you figure out some way you don't have to ever do that either, okay? You tell your own story. So what was it I was going to say? Thank you. So we were driving into Newton, Kansas, and I don't know if I'd even been through Newton before, but it was dusky or getting dark. And I looked, and there was this huge marquee in front of one of those buildings. I didn't know it was called a marquee in those days. Nowadays, I know what a marquee is. And it said ROXY on it. Before they were Fox theaters, and not you, not my little nieces over here, nobody, you don't know even what a Fox theater is, but is a movie theater back in the day, okay? Before it was Fox, it was Roxy. So, I knew right then and there, only I knew much earlier, I knew when I was 4 years old that this is where I wanted to be. Maybe not this particular stage, but I wanted to be on the stage. Do you want to hear about 4 years old and on the stage? I wasn't going to tell that, but I could tell it if you want to hear it. I was 4 years old and driving my mother absolutely crazy because I begged her for taking piano lessons for one thing. Well, I had to wait another year and a half to get those. But our neighbor, Maxine Hasty, she lived a mile down there. I was raised on a farm, by the way, just in case you don't know. And our neighbor down the road, Maxine Hasty, taught in a one-room school. She was one of the only women in the whole community in that day. We're talking early 1950s, very early 1950s. She was one of the only women working outside the home, but she was one of the only ones who had that much education. In later years, many of the women of that community went back, as did my mother, and got their college degrees and then taught. Usually, teaching is what they did. But Maxine taught at Olive Branch School. And one day my mother was saying, "This girl is driving me nuts. She wants to perform." And Maxine said, "Well, that's no problem." She said, "I've got this little 4-line poem about a chicken. You make her a little outfit." My mother was an excellent seamstress. I hate it, just in case you want to know. I've got this little poem. You make her an outfit. She learns teach her the poem, and the next time I have a little performance evening at my school, she can come perform. So Mom made a chicken suit out of muslin and cut out feathers from crepe paper and sewed them on it, and it came with a hat that has a wattle on it. And we went off to Olive Branch School one evening. I was apparently thrilled. You can't believe it, but I do not remember this. I know it's true because I've seen the pictures, but I apparently got up on the stage and I said my piece. That was so much fun. I said my piece again. When I started on it the third time, my dad elbowed my mother and said, "Get her off that stage." There are many times when there were many times all through my life, actually, that I didn't know how lucky I was, and that I did not feel like Mrs. Ticklefeather. I felt more like George Bailey. I felt like in It's Wonderful Life. And if she hasn't seen that, you make sure she does. Same with these over here, okay? And there were times when actually that movie saved me. I had and I'm only admitting this because I think people need to talk about mental health once in a while. There were 2 times in my life when that movie literally saved me. I watched it and got myself back on track again. And for those of you who've ever been in that position, you know exactly what I mean. But it is so interesting how the science of matter and the cosmos, you can call it God, you can call it the Great Spirit, you can call it Muhammad, you can call it Buddha, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Or you can call it your dead relatives looking down on you and taking care of you. I don't care what you call it, but it is so interesting when you get to be older and you're reflecting back on your life and you say, all those things I thought weren't right and the things that were happening that I wished weren't happening and I wished for something else. Imagine imagine what would have happened if I had gotten my wish. I am here today because I didn't get a lot of those wishes, and I am exactly where I am supposed to be. There were many people all through my life. Some of you sitting right out there in that audience. And I said it past tense, there were many people. There are many people who continue to inspire me, who continue to make me feel that I am the lucky, lucky lady. And at the risk, I know they're going to holler at me, but I don't care. At the risk of your yelling at me later, especially at lunch, would at least the first 3 rows of my family right here, I think most of you are here together, that includes you, sir. Stand up. Linda, stand up. Thank you. These are the people that have my back. I was going to try to figure out a great way to make this all close. Yeah, well, I can't do it on the fly right at the moment. So this is what I'm going to say. Norman was told one time, you have absolutely the best children. And as you heard Terry say a while ago, we raised them in horse feathers. We didn't do it by ourselves. I'm tempted to say everybody out here who was ever in horse feathers and helped to raise at least the 2 that are here today. One of my daughters lives in Thailand right at the moment. She chose not to spend $10,000 for an airplane ticket. I thought that was very wise. Who helped raise these people, because just like all of you in here, like everybody, we don't do this alone. We do it together. We are all connected. And I wish the wealthy, powerful people in the world understood that as well. But don't let me preach. So Norman said to this person, well, I raised my children so that I would have someone intelligent to talk to. I cannot, everything Terry said about feeling like I was in somebody's shadow and a few other things he said I didn't have any idea he was going to say, are right on the money, and that's because he knows me way too well. Today, this is a high. I cannot thank the school or Kathy Del Carpio, who nominated me for this and cannot be here today because she found out quite recently she has lung cancer, which has metastasized to her bones. She lives in Louisiana, so that's part of the reason. Crap, where was I going with this?
Just say thank you.
I can't thank her or all of you for being here and supporting me my whole life enough. I love you all. Thank you.
would again like to thank everyone for attending this celebration of the arts at Southwestern this morning. We would cordially like to invite all of you to a light lunch reception for Robbie and Roxy at the Fellowship Hall of Grace Church immediately following this event. And our thanks goes out to the church for extending the use of their space to us. We truly appreciate it. But yes, there's lots of food. It took Ted Bresco still has cramps in his hands from opening the tuna cans for the tuna salad. But if you know of any worthy mound builders who should be nominated for this Hall of Fame, please visit with me or any of the college staff. Additionally, there's a nomination form you can find the link on the inside cover of your program booklet. We'd like to invite each of you back tomorrow at 7 p.m. to Richardson for the Southwestern College Choir Ensemble's presentation of Sacred Spaces, directed by Dr. Simon Hill. Admission is free, and the concert has been generously underwritten by our friend and fellow builder, Dr. Marilyn McNish. Additionally, next Sunday, April 28th, the South Kansas Symphony will present pictures at an exhibition here in Richardson at 3 p.m. Details are provided in your Founders Weekend booklet. Again, please know that we are grateful that you joined us on campus today. Thank you for helping celebrate the 2024 inductees to the Fine Arts Hall of Fame. It has been our privilege and joy to host you this morning, and again, our sincere gratitude for your support of Southwestern College and the arts. Thank you very much.